Hey guys, what is going on? Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at the 26th October edition of AEW's flagship show, as well as the latest wrestling news, including big news on the Elite and CM Punk's AEW status, Boogeyman returning to WWE TV, WWE scrapping Hell in a Cell, AEW Signs The Kingdom, Chucky disposes of Liv Morgan, and more. As always, Wrestlelamia won't recap the matches, but look at the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. The good: Claudio's Superman spot. Tonight's opening tag match between the Blackpool Combat Club's Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta against Chris Jericho and Daniel Garcia featured some exciting action, as well as a super spot by Claudio. Castagnoli showed fans why he's nicknamed the Swiss Superman, not only lifting up Chris Jericho for the swing, but doing so with Daniel Garcia on his shoulders. Wheeler Yuta is a grown-ass man. The Blackpool Combat Club continues to crumble as Wheeler Yuta confronted Bryan Danielson about his frustrations, and Claudio Castagnoli had to interfere before things escalated. Wheeler reminding Danielson that he's a grown-ass man was a good way to show Wheeler may be 26, but he's no rookie, and he's more than willing to beat some respect into Bryan. A first-class number one contenders match. Tonight's number one contenders match for the AEW World Tag Team Championship was everything the fans expected, as FTR took on Swerve in Our Glory. The match featured a series of nail-biting near falls, and the only downside was seeing Austin and Colton Gunn interfering to cost FTR the match. Renee rocks. Renee Paquette has quickly reminded fans how a good interviewer works. Paquette isn't afraid to insert herself into the conversation, but she doesn't steal the spotlight or make the interview about her. Paquette has the right facial expressions and the presence to enhance interviews, and the only downside to AEW using her is that it may be using her a bit too much. Luchasaurus is scary. Christian's right hand of destruction is scary AF. He's the type of alpha monster whose growling and dinosaur mask should sound and look ridiculous, but whose presence makes it work. All MJF needs is a grudge. Max's promo that all he needed was a grudge, and not the Dynamite Diamond Ring, was great, as MJF teased his face turn. Further fueling the storyline was MJF warning Stokely Hathaway not to harm Jon Moxley or he'd be fired, a scenario that played out later in the show. Haters headed to the top. Is Jamie Hayter a future world champion? It's hard to tell at this point, but Hayter has quickly developed into one of AEW's rising female stars whose power is undeniable and who, at 27, seems poised for something special in AEW. The bad: ROH quality sound. Wrestlelamia knows that Tony Khan bought Ring of Honor, but did he also buy the promotion's old sound equipment? Dynamite was snake-bit by audio problems for the first hour. A weak promo. Even Renee Paquette couldn't save Rey Fenix and Alex Abrahantes talking up Penta El Cerro's AEW World Championship match with Jon Moxley. A weak promo that was only saved by the arrival of Christian Cage and Luchasaurus. A clash of styles. Tonight's main event exemplified what happens when you put wrestlers with two very different styles against each other. Jon Moxley is no stranger to working across the world against different opponents, but it was obvious from tonight's title defense that Mox wasn't up to working against an opponent with the speed of Penta El Cerro. Penta slowed his style for Moxley to keep up with him, and while El Cerro managed to get in a few high-flying moves, this wasn't a Penta match. The downright ugly. Nothing ugly, this was another entertaining 2 hours of wrestling that had some missteps and speed bumps, such as the audio issues, but nonetheless delivered from start to finish thanks to good pacing, announcing, and of course, wrestling. Big Elite and CM Punk news. Topping today's news is an update on AEW's investigation into the alleged backstage brawl that happened after CM Punk's post-all-out media scrum. While there are reports that AEW has completed its investigation into the matter, those reports remain unconfirmed. AEW airs video featuring the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. AEW aired an Elite hype video on the 26th October Dynamite, leading to immediate speculation that Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks are returning to AEW. Rumor has it they were backstage at the event. It remains to be seen what's next for Punk, but judging from this video, AEW is spinning the Elite in a sympathetic manner, going as far as to imply AEW just isn't the same without them. The ultimate judge of things will be AEW's fans. Will they welcome the Elite back, or blame them for CM Punk's absence, assuming Punk leaves AEW? AEW bans Punk and the Elite from speaking about alleged altercation. Despite rumors that the investigation is close to completion, or completed, AEW reportedly is enforcing its ban on anyone talking about the alleged altercation following All Out. Dave Meltzer recently reported on Wrestling Observer Radio that everyone is still banned from talking publicly about what happened and the situation. The investigation is over, and you can tell by who's back and who's not back, also kind of like what Punk said. As for Punk, Diamond Dave is also addressing a news story making the rounds about that night to remember. CM Punk dog story called a fabrication. Said story is that CM Punk's dog Larry was injured when Punk's locker room door was kicked in, with 2 of the dog's teeth knocked out. Wrestling Inc. reported that Punk felt threatened and invoked the castle defense, where he could employ force to defend himself. However, Dave Meltzer noted on a recent Wrestling Observer that the story has no basis in reality. Anyway, multiple eyewitnesses said that the dog story was a total fabrication. If it was true, the end of the investigation would have been that Punk would be the one staying. Diamond Dave also noted the timing of the dog story and how no one mentioned it until recently, when rumors began circulating that the investigation was nearly complete. WWE scrapping Hell in a Cell Premium Live event? Is the WWE ending its Hell in a Cell events? WrestleVotes is reporting that WWE has decided to end its annual Premium Live events that are based around the Hell in a Cell match. The show itself, I think, is completely dead. That match, from what I understand, means a lot to Hunter. Just think of the classics he's had in there. Roman Reigns and Jay, so they've been feuding for 6 weeks. They got to be there now because the calendar says so. That's not going to happen anymore. Give Me Sports' Louis Dangoor, who is now collaborating with WrestleVotes, noted, there has been a lot of talk about the new WWE leadership regime looking to do away with some gimmick pay-per-views, and Hell in a Cell looks to be the top of that list. If this story is accurate, it's another example of Triple H removing the constraints imposed upon the WWE's creative department by stipulation-based shows. If the WWE does eliminate the Hell in a Cell PLEs, there's no reason to think the match itself will fade away. What do you think of the WWE's stipulation shows and the chance of them vanishing? AEW Signs The Kingdom. Another astonishing acquisition as AEW signs The Kingdom to a multi-year deal. Fightful Select is reporting that The Kingdom, Matt Taven, Mike Bennett, and Maria Kanellis are now all elite. As noted by Wrestling News' Andrew Ravens, The Kingdom enjoyed a successful run in Impact after their time in Ring of Honor. Ravens noted that Kanellis has talked with AEW President Tony Khan about helping AEW's women's division. Ravens also pointed out that The Kingdom was not under contract when they debuted at Rampage. PW Insider is reporting that The Kingdom signed 3-year deals and that the contracts don't indicate whether they'll work in AEW, Ring of Honor, or both. What do you think of The Kingdom signing with AEW? WWE's wacky idea for Mr. Money in the Bank. Is Austin Theory ever going to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase? That's the question fans are asking, as Theory has been continually thwarted in his cash-in attempts, not to mention been stymied by WWE's determination to keep the Undisputed Championship on Roman Reigns at least until WrestleMania 39. Now WrestleVotes is reporting on an interesting idea as to how to maximize the suspense surrounding A-Town's cash-in. There's an idea that he's the first guy to wait a full year, like the day or let's say night of Money in the Bank next year. That's the storyline. Like, you have to cash this in 2.5 hours. You have to cash this in 90 minutes, that type of thing. I know the idea is on the table. Do you think Theory will successfully cash in his briefcase? Boogeyman returning to WWE TV. The Boogeyman is coming to get ya! New news coming in on the next former WWE superstar to return to the company, but not in the way you might think. In a Halloween-themed edition of the show, it's being reported that the Boogeyman will be making an appearance on the WWE Network and YouTube show The Bump. This will mark the Boogeyman's first appearance since last year's Raw Legends Night. With being signed to a Legends contract, could he make an appearance on next week's Raw, set for the day of Halloween? Chucky ends Liv Morgan. Bad news for Liv Morgan fans, as she was murdered on the 26th October episode of Chucky. Morgan, a self-professed horror fan and huge fan of the Chucky horror franchise, had a short-lived role on the episode as the demonic doll stabbed her repeatedly, likely ruling out any chances of Morgan returning. Wannabe WWE champion robs convenience store. Last but not least, police in Temple, Texas are looking for a man wearing a WWE Championship belt who held up a convenience store. Thankfully, no one was hurt, but the story is newsworthy for how KWTX-10 reported the story. The Temple Police Department is searching for a WWE champion suspected in an armed robbery Tuesday evening. Given the current economy and the cost of deluxe championship belts, not to mention AEW's pay-per-views, it's unfortunate that someone resorts to holding up the local Quickie Mart for a few bucks. Well guys, there you have it, WrestleLamia's analysis of the 26th October episode of Dynamite, including the good, the bad, and the downright ugly, as well as the latest wrestling news and rumors you need to know. Be sure to leave your comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you next time for some more wrestling content.